everybody. I'm Bill Andrews. We have a couple housekeeping things that we have to do, and then we'll get to what I think is.
I hear you.
Oh, all right. I can use a mic or I can talk really loud. I'll try to talk loud because I'm a former retired teacher, so I'm usually pretty good at that. Can you hear me in the back there? Okay. Thank you. I'm opening the zoning board. I'm opening the zoning board of appeal for 10/18/23. We have a couple things on the agenda. The first one, which will be very quick, is a variant for 126 Elm Street, and then we have a presentation on Chapter 40B and a comprehensive permit application for 47 Main Street. And those two items will be considered at the same time. Can you hear me okay? Okay. After the presentation of the permit, I'm going to go to the board and ask the board what questions and concerns that they have. And after the board, I will be reaching out to the public to get your questions and concerns. Okay? So that's the order that we're going to be doing it. So first off, I'd like to do David Duffy. Do we have him here? I actually think he's coming in over the line. David, are you online? Actually, didn't he have a attorney?
It's actually going to be Jeff Stefanik, his engineer.
His engineer. Is he online?
Yes, he is.
Do you want to tell us, I understand we're cleaning up a little engineering problem for it's a variance that we had a setback issue with in terms of the lot line. Do you want to explain the situation real quickly? You're going to have to unmute.
Bill, while he's unmuting, I'm not sure you announced the opening of the public hearing for this.
Oh, for the 40B or for the?
For the variance, 126.
Oh, so I'm opening a public hearing for the variance of 126 Elm Street, which is David Duffy Jr. requesting a variance to allow a front setback of 42 feet where 50 feet is required. For those who don't know, this is, I believe, a case where the variance happened before the board, it was approved, but there was an error in the original drawings or something, Amy?
It was a discrepancy. They thought they were in one zone. They're actually in a different.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Are you ready to present, sir?
Jeff just messaged saying his microphone does not seem to be working.
Great. You want to see if you can go for a continuance to next month? Any response?
Yeah, he's typing.
Okay. It's like the first days of the pandemic when I was trying to remote teach half my class. I made them turn all the cameras on so I could see what they were doing.
He's asking if I can explain the application. I mean, typically you'd have an authorized representative or the applicant themselves do that. So
there we go. So that's Michael.
That's Michael Gelb.
Michael Gelb is zoning board, one of the new zoning board members. It's a bad precedent to do an in-house thing.
It's I'll hold on a second. Let me. I think we have time on the public hearing.
There are seats up front if people want to sit. Second, third row.
Hi. Could I ask a question too? The person that's typing is representing my grandfather, and I'm not sure, I guess, what's going on. Is there anything I can do to help? I don't know anything about it. He's supposed to be representing us, so I'm not sure. But is there anything that I can do to help with it?
he's not the owner or the applicant, I'm not.
Yeah.
No, it's my grandfather. The house is being built for me, but it's owned by my grandfather as of right now. I don't know what he was supposed to be representing us. I just don't know if there's anything I can do, like I said, to help you. I'm sorry that this is happening.
I mean, I can certainly explain the application. The issue is that I need a representative of the applicant or owner, or the applicant and owner themselves.
Yeah. Right. I would prefer them to do it since they're the engineer, but.
Is there a time constraint, or can we just push this off to next month?
That's what I'm looking for right now. I think we're good till next month, but I just want to confirm.
Right. I'm not sure, so.
Well, while we're waiting, it's going to take him a second. Michael, I see you online. Do you want to?
We're good. We're good until November 26th
Okay.
For the public hearing deadline.
Can I get a motion to continue the application for the variance for 126 Elm?
I propose a motion to continue this variance application for 126 Elm Street until the November meeting.
Okay, I second that. Okay, so I'll take a vote of the board. Oh yeah. Vote of the board. Bill Andrews, aye.
Bob Hughes, aye. Bob Butler, aye.
Michael, how do you vote on continuing that?
Michael Gell, aye.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Okay, so we'll continue that to next month. Michael, you said you wanted to be called on for just a moment? We were about to start the hearing on the 40B.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to take this opportunity to say that I need to recuse myself from all the matters concerning this 40B application because I'm in a butter, and that would apply to this meeting and all future zoning board meetings related to that. That's it.
Okay, thank you. We have a very unusual circumstance. 3 of the board members live incredibly close to the project. I think I'm about, if you're within 200 feet, you're in a butter. I think I'm about 400 feet away. And Eric is probably, from where the entrance comes out, probably less than 1,000 feet maybe 1,500. And Michael's right across the street. So we are also your neighbors in this. Okay, I'm going to open up on the agenda item 2 and 3 at once. For those who don't know, we have a lot of new members, and some of us are old and could use a refresher. So we have asked for a presentation by attorney Christopher Elfin, am I pronouncing that correctly?
That's correct, yep.
Who was with the Mass Housing Partnership. They're basically the technical assistants for legal counsel. So he's going to do a quick overview of what the 40B process is. It's a very specific process that we have to follow. And it will help all of you understand how this process works.
And Mr. Chairman, I think what would make the most sense is actually open up the public hearing for the 40B.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, let's. I forgot to do that. I'd like to open the public hearing for the comprehensive permit for 47 Main Street, Lobisser Building Corp. Mike, one thing I'm going to ask is, this is date specific for what our closing date on this. We have a certain amount of time before we have to make a decision. And I want to just at some point, if you can give us what that date is at some point. So, sir, if you can, Christopher, if you want to start off, that'd be great.
Absolutely. And if you want to hand over the mic,
Yeah,
please, just so
absolutely.
I can be as clear as possible. And Mr. Chairman, if the applicant, since the public hearing is open,
Yep.
you should give just an opportunity for the applicant to speak.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Through the board, I was just wondering about the composition of the board. I know you're a 5-member board.
Yes.
I only see 4 of you. And I heard that.
Eric, oh, sorry. Thank you. The composition for this board, with Michael reclusing himself, will be Eric Husol, Bob Humes, Bob Butler, Don Spargo, and myself. We are the 5 that you get.
Oh, there are 5.
One is online.
One is online.
Sure.
He's tested, he came down with COVID.
5. Did you do a Mullen Act?
Phone
You
6.
adopted the Mullen Act here?
I do not know if we did that. Did we do the Mullen Act?
Town manager did not speak.
No, we did not. Thank you, sir.
Okay, that always gives a little flexibility because if the person has to miss a meeting, they can really know. So
I
you just need to be
Yes,
careful.
at our last meeting, we didn't discuss this project, but I did say in 40B projects, it's absolutely critical that we show up, because if you're gonna vote on it, you have to show up all the time.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Sir,
Okay, good, is this?
just flip it up, the switch up, and it'll turn green. There you go.
Excellent. Okay. So we're well on our way, talking 40B. Again, my name is Attorney Chris Alford. I'm a land use attorney by trade. I oftentimes consult for Zoning Board of Appeals on certain applications, including comprehensive applications. But I also often represent developers of 40B projects. I've also represented abutters of 40B projects. I've been involved in appeals and the approval of the local hearing process. So I thought that we would just take a high-level review of 40B, just so the board understands. There may be specific questions during the public hearing process, which I'm sure will come up, and those specific questions can be answered when they do come up. So if we just want to start with the first slide. So just a broad overview of what 40B is. 40B was enacted to allow low and moderate income housing. It establishes a local review and approval process that gives power to the Zoning Board of Appeals to give waivers to certain local bylaws and dimensional requirements to allow projects to move forward. And what I like to do is just go over the stages of the 40B project approval process, just so you have a high-level idea of what happens. So the first stage is the project eligibility stage. That is when the developer goes to Mass Housing and gets a project eligibility letter from Mass Housing saying that this is a project that is suitable for the site, and the project is generally a good project that the state would approve. The second process is where we are now, which is the comprehensive permit application. That is, they are excuse me, they have a application in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals that allows the board to issue all local permits. There isn't going to be a site plan approval from the planning board or subdivision approval. The ZBA is the all-encompassing board. So the ZBA is going to issue all permits, other than state requirements under wetlands and stormwater requirements. That's going to be under the state, that's going to be under the Conservation Commission. We can go to the next slide. Stage 3, we hope to never get to this stage. This is if we issue a decision that the applicant has a problem with. That is, it's a denial or it's an approval with conditions that they do not like. So there is normally you would have a denial, somebody could appeal to the land court or the superior court. But under a comprehensive permit application, if there's a denial or an approval with conditions, they can go straight to the Housing Appeals Committee. And the legal standard is much different than a normal ZBA decision. So if you go to the next slide, I just really want the board to understand that when the board has denied a comprehensive permit, the ultimate question before the committee is whether the decision of the board is consistent with local needs. A denial will be upheld if the Housing Appeals Committee finds that there is a valid local concern. And valid local concerns are interests like protection of health, safety, open space, site, and building design concerns. It isn't impact to schools or necessarily views. It has to be a valid local concern. So when we're thinking about this comprehensive permit application in front of us, we have to think about how does this impact valid local concerns. And if you move to the next slide, a decision that has conditions that the applicant does not approve, that can also be appealed to the Housing Appeals Committee. Conditions can be challenged, most common for the appellant to prove that the conditions or the requirements in aggregate make the construction or operation of the housing project uneconomic. So when we're thinking about possible conditions, there's a certain limit. There can't be just, reduce this by 20 units. There has to be conditions that address local concerns. And if the conditions are so much that it makes the project uneconomic, then the applicant is going to have a very good basis for an appeal. And as stated, the Housing Appeals Committee will have a good reason to overturn the decision and just allow the project as is without any conditions. So if we go to stage 4, hopefully we'll skip stage 3 and we go to stage 4. Stage 4 is when the subsidizing agency, in this case, because it's a rental project, is going to be Mass Housing, I believe. I think that's the subsidizing agency that approved this. Mass Housing will issue a final approval. They will again check the applicant's application, make sure that the project is generally in compliance and the applicant is generally in compliance as somebody who would comply and be eligible to build a project like this. They review that once again to make sure that the project complies with state law and with all Mass Housing regulations. And then stage 5 is actually the construction and occupancy. This would be involved with making sure that number one, the project complies with the decisions and all the conditions thereof, which may require them to get additional approvals from the building inspector and the police department, fire department, water, sewer departments, and other municipal departments to make sure that the project is being built correctly and that it's following through with the comprehensive permit. Additionally, they'll be working with the subsidizing agency, Mass Housing, to put together regulatory agreements to make sure that the project remains affordable and that they're going to be rented to those who are eligible for the affordable units. And then stage 6, the last stage, is just the subsidizing agency making sure that it regulates the project to make sure that it is being rented to those who are eligible forever and ever. So that's the quick overview of the stages. I just wanted to give the board sort of a 20,000 view of what happens, all the stages. What we're most concerned about is actually the comprehensive permit process, and I'll try to go step by step of how this is going to go. The first step is actually to determine whether there's any safe harbors. I spoke to Mike and the chairman, and I guess the town has made a determination that we're not going to make any calls for safe harbors. That's when the applicants say, the town makes a determination that we're above the 10%, or for another reason, we do not need to consider that there is a presumption that affordable housing is needed in town. The state actually, in the comprehensive regulations, provide what is required for an application. I reviewed the application submitted by the applicant. It seems like they are in compliance of these regulations, and they've provided everything we needed to make sure that they've provided a complete application. One of the things is that they only need to submit preliminary plans. They've submitted plans that are preliminary, but yet complete enough for us to make a determination and have them peer reviewed. They're also going to submit a waiver request. They've submitted one. I took a look at it. It looks to be sufficiently completed. A waiver list is a living, breathing document. It can be amended and revised during the public hearing process, but I reviewed it and it looks generally completed. That waiver list is going to be reviewed by our peer reviewers to make sure that it's complete and that they're requesting the right things. And just so the public understands, what a waiver list is all the waivers the applicant is seeking from the local bylaw, most notably the zoning bylaw. So dimensional requirements, use requirements, things like that, they're going to be requesting waivers from those requirements that they do not need to meet. They can request a waiver from any local bylaw. Again, they cannot get waivers from state regulations, but they can seek waivers from any local bylaw. Mr. Chairman, you are correct that there is a time limit on these things. We had 14 days to open up the public hearing. There was an extension given by the applicant, so we meet that criteria. Within 15 days, we need to make a determination that we are not going to determine that a safe harbor exists. Again, the town reviewed the safe harbor criteria, determined we do not meet that. And then really the next big deadline is 180 days to close the public hearing. What it means by the public hearing is that's when we take all the input from town officials, our peer reviewers, the applicant, and make a determination after 180 days. Truthfully, that is a number of days that often gets extended. If we make a determination that we needed additional information, and an applicant who understands that additional information is needed will often extend those 180 days, but it's really our obligation to complete this public hearing process in 180 days. That's the state regulations. So as long as the applicant has provided all the necessary information, we have an obligation to close in 180 days. The board is more than welcome to close less than 180 days, but once the public hearing is closed, we cannot take in any new information, and thereafter we have 40 days to make a decision. One of the things I think might be important for a project like this is to schedule a site visit. A site visit would be with the applicant, the board, and any abutters. It wouldn't be a public hearing where we're hearing information, but just getting a general, familiarity with the area and with the property and where the proposed buildings are going to be located. And the next big thing that we really have to do is retain peer reviews. We are not civil engineers or traffic engineers or architects. What we need is peer reviews to make sure that the applicant has a good application before us, and we're able to check their work and make sure that the project complies with state regulations and that it is a viable project. So that's really our next step, is to retain peer reviews to review the applicant's application.
Excuse me, can I have a point of clarification? By we, do you mean the town, MHP, or the zoning board does the retains a peer review consultant? You, okay. So when you say we,
we'll do that
you're
in about 10
referring
minutes.
to, okay.
Yeah, that's really meant for, you're right, Mr. Chairman, that's really the first meeting of order of business in the public hearing process, is to retain those peer reviewers on behalf of the board and on behalf of the town to review the applicant's application. And that, because this is a comprehensive permit, is really up to us to take in all that information, take in the peer reviewers who are going to come to the public hearing, review their findings, and take that information during the public hearing process. Oftentimes, you can go to the next slide.
Did I do it?
Yep. It's good to keep communications going. With a project like this, there may not be enough time for us to discuss with the applicant about various issues that may come up during the public hearing. and it's good that we authorize our engineers to speak to their engineers directly so that we can sort of be as efficient as possible. And so the board can make a decision after determining who their peer reviewers are, give them permission to speak to the applicant's peer reviewers so that there can be engineer-to-engineer conversations going on. Obviously, we need to comply with the open meeting law, and we cannot have board members discussing the project outside of the public hearing, but certainly peer reviewers and your professionals and town staff will be able to continue the discussions and work sessions. And again, this is the really important thing, is what we need to be considering is valid local concerns. Valid local concerns are health, safety, environmental issues, in some cases design, open space, and overall planning that the town may have. Those are the issues. Things like increased usage of sewer, more school children in the schools, those are not valid local concerns. We have to think about the project's impact to valid local concerns, and the presumption is that there is a need for affordable housing in town.
Excuse me. How is the need for affordable housing determined? What's the criteria here?
Mr. Chairman,
If you don't mind, and I think that's an excellent question. I
Yeah.
prefer to keep all the questions. I don't want to get sidetracked. I've been given a very specific agenda up here that I'm going to try to follow. Please hold that. I'll even give you an M&M to hold that thought. Because I know you're interested in those. He thinks I'm kidding. Here we go. Okay. Well, no, seriously.
Well, this is the first.
It is. No, seriously.
So it's a valid
questions to the end.
Yeah, and I should have probably mentioned before, so it should be part of my presentation. The presumption is because there's less than 10% of inventory in town that there is a presumption that affordable housing is needed. It's because the town is under the 10% level. After the public hearing is closed, then there's a deliberation, and the board discussed amongst itself after receiving all the information they need to make a determination and to draft a decision. I'm not a great presenter, but really what I'm here for is to begin to draft a decision. And that decision could be an approval or denial. That will be up to the board. But my duty is really to take in the input and prepare a decision with conditions or prepare a decision for reasons for denial. But most likely in 40B projects, we're talking about a decision with conditions. And so during the public hearing process, we can start thinking about potential conditions, and I will be frantically taking notes and making sure that those conditions get into the decision. And that's really what if you go to the next hearing. Oh, sorry, the next slide. Well, that's really, there's three outcomes. Well, there's a couple more slides, but that's all right. There's three outcomes. It is approval, an approval with conditions, or denial. In 40B, most of the time you have a decision with conditions. Or you approve the project as is, but most of the time we have an approval with conditions. Again, a project that should be approved will be approved. A project that should be denied will be denied. But most likely we head to a project that is approved with conditions. And again, when we're thinking about conditions, we have to make sure that those conditions do not make the project uneconomic. So, reduce your the amount of units by 30%, that may make the project uneconomic, and that would be a basis for an appeal.
All set. I'm going to take 2 seconds for a little legalese, as to make it clear that the meeting is open on the application of Lobisser Building Corp. for 1 Charlesview Road, Hopedale, for a comprehensive permit for a proposed project known as Upton Apartments to be located on the site consisting of approximately 6.75 acres, known and numbered as 0 Main Street, aka 47 Main Street, Upton, Mass. Assessors Map 202, Lot 108. It's known as the property. 0 Main Street is located between 45 and 51 Main Street. The location, the applicant includes a proposal for a total of 68 garden-style rental units, parking, including 3 detached garage buildings, landscaping, associated improvements, all shown on the plan and specifications included in the application. Okay. So I think the next item on the agenda is the presentation by the applicant. If you want to step forward. To get to the people's questions and concerns, that is on my list too. But I'm going to follow the order that I spoke. I want to make sure. Kevin, you want to introduce yourself first? Wait.
You want me to wait?
No. You.
Oh, okay.
Legally doesn't make a difference. He just runs it.
It's his presentation.
Okay. I mean, we're open the meeting. He is in attendance.
Yeah. Okay. Hi. Okay. Good evening. I'm Kevin Lobisser. I'm the owner and president of Lobisser Building Corp. We're a real estate development company that has served central and eastern Massachusetts for over 27 years. During all 27 of those years, we've been very active in Upton and have enjoyed a very strong and private-public partnership with the town. We build single-family homes, townhomes, condominiums, active adult communities, as well as medical office buildings and residential apartments. We currently own and manage over 300,000 square feet of medical office and residential apartment space. For a little local reference, we have successfully developed the following residential projects in Upton. Warren Ridge, which is a single-family subdivision. Kenneth Village, which was a 55-plus condominium project that was made up of duplex buildings. And I think worth noting is that with that project, we preserved 63% of the land as open space in perpetuity. Dean Pond is a single-family subdivision. In that project, we preserved over 80% of the 75-plus acres of land as open space in perpetuity. Rockwood Meadows, which was the former Amato Farms. That's a 55-plus condominium development that was made up of 62 single-family style homes. And with that project, that was about 92 acres, and we preserved over 75% of that land in open space in perpetuity. 149 Main Street, which is a 44-unit Chapter B rental development, just like the one that we're proposing today. I think that I'd like to note on that project is that when we brought that project forward, the town was about 120 units short on affordable housing. And at the time, members of Board of Selectmen, Zoning Board, they actually really wanted me to do more units there because they wanted to handle their problem. We looked at that, and we were not comfortable with that, and we went forward with only 44 units. So I do bring up those because I want to make sure that people understand that when I say we have a strong relationship with the town, it's because we try to do responsible projects. With me tonight are members of my team. David Pine, he's a development associate of mine. Ed Marchand, he's our 40B advisor. Ed has worked on over 185 Chapter 40B projects. What's that? Must have taken a long time.
Look at me.
Ed has been advising both local municipalities and private developers like myself. We have Mike Dean and Peter Lavoie. They're of D&L Design Group. They are our civil engineers. Jeremy Baldwin of Mogul DeStefano Architects. They're our architect who, Jeremy heads up the multifamily design studio at Mogul DeStefano. We do have additional team members that are not here tonight, and that would be Scott Goddard of Goddard Consulting for our wetlands, Jeffrey Dirk of Vanessa and Associates, which is our traffic engineer, and we do have John Smolik of Smolik and Bond, and he is our 40B permitting attorney. And they may be here at room meetings. As mentioned earlier, we are here tonight to present a general overview of our proposed development and to listen to comments and questions from the board, town reps, residents. We understand how apprehensive communities can be about new developments, especially these type, and why we know that they want to learn more about any proposed development. That's exactly why this public hearing process is required for a proposed 40B project. We know that the board will engage in independent peer review professionals to review both the traffic report and our civil engineering plans that have been submitted. We also anticipate that the board will request and schedule more detailed presentations on drainage and traffic and other topics throughout this public process. It has been suggested by some in town that the project is too dense. This suggestion is just not true. In fact, most 40B projects with buildings of this type, similar to ours, aim to be somewhere in the range of 15 to 30 units per acre. The new MBTA Community Section 3A regulations are going to require a minimum of, by right, of the density of 15 units per acre. For comparison, the project that we're proposing is only 10.07 units per acre. All private and public planners understand that utilizing existing roads, water and sewer, and electric infrastructure reduces environmental impacts. And it helps reduce the construction costs, which enable an economically feasible building that will expand the housing opportunities in Upton. Developments like this add to a downtown's vibrancy and supports existing retail uses. This site is within walking distance with sidewalks to Upton's excellent schools, the library, the new community center, which we're in, the public safety buildings, parks and other recreational assets, retail stores and services, and restaurants. I would like to
That's kind of fun.
What was that?
There's hardly any retail and there's hardly any restaurants. Really. That's a stretch.
If you don't mind, folks, I'm going to make sure that all of you, or as many as we can, will get a voice. But please don't be interrupted.
Yep.
Thank you.
That's okay. Lost the page there. I would also like to provide a brief project overview before we proceed to more detailed presentations by the civil engineers and our architect. I know it's been stated earlier in the introduction, but the driveway is in between 45 and 51 Main Street. The assessors currently use 0 Main Street, but we anticipate that the new address will be 47 Main. There will be a total of 68 rental units, 26 one-bedroom, 35 two-bedroom, and 7 3-bedroom units in this 4-story plus basement building. 17 of the 68 units will be Chapter 40B affordable as required. The affordable units will include 6 one-bedroom, 9 two-bedroom, and 2 3-bedroom. All units will have elevator access, and by design, this building will be attractive to seniors, empty nesters, young professionals, and residents requiring some handicap accessibility. There will be a total of 105 parking spaces, including 24 garage spaces and 3 garage buildings, which equates to a ratio of 1.54 spaces per unit. Residential amenities in the building will include a co-working and multi-purpose room, package delivery room, on-site rental office, fitness room, indoor bike storage, indoor private storage, dog wash, a small playground, and a dog walk area. The 68-unit addition to Upton's subsidized housing inventory will increase Upton's subsidized housing inventory from a current 6.37% to 8.66%. 40 additional housing units will still need to be provided to reach Upton's 10%. So again, I bring that up because obviously we have room to do more, and we're not. 70% of the affordable units will be rented in accordance with the Mass Housing Approved Local Preference Plan, which means we're obviously going to give preference to Upton residents for the affordable units. The building will be operated as a smoke-free building, just like 149 Main. No fossil fuel systems are planned for heating, cooling, or cooking. We will be using electric. And finally, before I turn this over to Peter and Mike on the civil engineering, I would like to just throw some highlights on some data for 149 Main Street. I don't mean to harp on 149 Main, but that's the last 40B project. It's very similar, so I thought it was important to just let people know what exists there. Residents in that, who reside there are teachers, public safety officers, and other professionals. 38% of the current 149 residents are actually over the age of 55. Occupancy has been at or close to 100% since its initial rent up, which was completed at the end or during COVID, I guess I would say. We have been informed that there are currently only 2 children in the Upton-Bendon School District listing 149 Main Street as their address. And that's information that we verified with Mike and the town. The average number of bedrooms per unit at 149 Main is 1.73, and it's almost identical to the average number of bedrooms that this project would propose, which is 1.72. There have been no public safety incidents that have been reported at 149 Main since the initial occupancy began in June of 2020. All of our trash and recycling and snow plowing at 149 Main is done through private vendors who we manage, and they answer to us. The town does not provide any of these services, as well will be the case with our proposed new project. And by all accounts, 149 Main has been a well-kept, very clean property, and we're a quiet, good neighbor, and we expect the same for our new proposed development. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to the engineers.
Share. Yeah. I'll share now on the screen.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Can you please state your name for the record? Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Peter Lavoie. I am the civil engineer for this project, and I work for D&L Design, and we are out of Milford, Mass.
Excuse me, we can't hear you.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Peter Lavoie. I am the civil engineer for this project, and I work for D&L Design, and we are located in Milford, Mass. So this is an initial overview presentation for the plan. We do expect a more detailed presentation once we get the peer review comments for our design. So. So the existing parcel is basically outlined in red on the screen.
Excuse me, sir. Why don't you just grab the microphone right from there? Because I think some of them are having trouble.
Okay, sorry about that.
Maybe.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, so the existing parcel is outlined in red. It is roughly 6.7 acres in size. We have to the south, we have Main Street, Route 140. To the north, we have Whittington Lane, and to the east, we have School Street.
No.
So can you go to the next page, Dave? So as you see, this is the overall parcel that's blown up. So in the existing conditions, it's basically a vacant parcel, mainly wooded. It slopes from north to southeast. We have wetlands to the east towards School Street. And we also have a wetland kind of in the center of the parcel towards Main Street. There is a small wetland to the west that is right at the edge of the property. The wetland line was flagged by Guardian Consulting. It was also, the wetland line was submitted to the Conservation Commission and reviewed and approved through an ORAD, which is an Order of Resource Area Delineation. That basically states that the wetland line, the conservation agrees with that wetland line, and that wetland line is approved through the location of it. That was done in June of 2022. As you see, the proposed building is in the center of the lot. Proposed building is a 4-story residential building, and we looked at a number of alternatives for this project. And the proposal accomplishes a number of things, and that was the reason why we proposed the building where it is. The building located in that location in the center of the parcel, you kind of have, it gives you the ability to grade the site and balance the grading. So by putting the building there, you have the front elevation, which is to the west of the building at 344, and the existing grade at the west property line, which is behind the abutters on Whitney Lane, is basically at 354. So you have a 10-foot difference in elevation. That would be the main entrance to the building. We also have...
Excuse me, do you have a pointer?
A pointer.
So we can see what you're talking about?
It doesn't work on the screen.
Okay.
I apologize.
Yes, sir.
So this right here is the main entrance to the building, and that is basically at 344, right through here. This line up here is basically at 354, so we have a 10-foot difference in grade from there to the front of the building.
Excuse me. What's the difference in grade from there to where the culvert is? Is there a culvert detailed right on Route 140 there?
Over here?
Yeah, what's the difference in grade between where that building's going to be and the culvert there?
So that elevation is roughly at 320, and the building is at 324.
So that's 4 feet?
344, sorry.
So is that 4 feet lower or 4 feet higher than where that culvert's going to be?
It's 24 feet higher.
Oh, 24 feet higher. That building is?
This front of the building is at 344.
So all the water's going to go to that culvert?
No, I haven't got to my...
Guys, I'm going to try to have the same rule. I think what you guys have for concerns with folks are very important, but I want to hold the questions from the audience till that period of the meeting.
I'm sorry, I just got out of work. I got here a little late.
Oh, well, the last gentleman, we did reward him with chocolate.
I think it's the best chocolate in the world.
So, sorry, thank you for continuing, but if you are going to, he will stay around for the question and answer session.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
So the proposed building is roughly in this location here. Like Kevin said, there is 68 units. So the closest point from the building to Main Street is roughly 350 feet. The closest point from the building to the east property line is roughly 175 feet. And then the closest point from this point here to the property line to the west is roughly 66 feet. So the proposed development, as you can see, basically we reserve 4.5 acres of open space. Out of that 4.5 acres, 3 acres of the parcel will remain undisturbed and not touched. So we will preserve basically 3 acres out of the 6.7 acres in size, and then there's an additional, this grass area and grading, which would be another acre and a half. It's basically 67% of the lot will remain open space. Like Kevin said, there are three. There's a garage bay here, here, and then there's another one in this location here. That gives you a total of 24 covered parking bays. There are 8 handicap spots. There's 4 for the lower level and 4 for the upper level. The rest are 73 of standard units. So the access drive in the building location, like I said before, there were a number of alternatives that we had looked at to come to this final design. The access drive was looked at just recently, and after the site walk that we had with Mass State Housing and the town departments, the original design had the drive come up and then in. So what we proposed is we proposed to move the driveway away from the abutters and increase all this natural buffer along the back. So that area back there will not be disturbed. It will stay undisturbed and preserved. The proposed access driveway is roughly 24 feet wide with a sidewalk on one side, on the westerly side of the roadway. I just wanted to emphasize that, you know, the original design, the driveway was closer to the abutters, and we did take that concern into account. And that was the main reason why we moved the driveway away from that area, to preserve that natural buffer. We are also proposing a very robust landscape around the driveway, as well as a vinyl fence that would start at the top, the western property line, and come all the way down to this point right there. With the fence, the vegetation, and by lowering the grade of the project, by lowering this pad right here where the building is, so you're 10 feet down, and then we add that landscaping and the vinyl fence, and then as well as the landscape buffer, that increases the separation to the neighbors to the north and to the west. The project will be serviced by town water and town sewer, which will come off of Main Street here. Town sewer will come through here and tie into the sewer on Main Street. The water line will go up along the driveway, go around the building to complete that loop. We are proposing 3 fire hydrants. There's a hydrant here, there's a hydrant here, and then there's a hydrant here for fire protection. We are proposing 2 trash enclosures for recycling and trash. There's one location down here for the lower level, and then there's a second location up here for the upper level. They will be screened. Snow storage. Snow storage, we looked at snow storage. If you look through the plan, there is snow storage along the access drive and snow storage around the area. Also, any additional snow storage will be removed. The snow will be removed from the site.
Across the street. Yeah,
Outdoor amenities. So we kind of put the dog area, the playground, and the grill area kind of in the central location of the project, just to centralize that area there. Proposed drainage. So the drainage design. So the drainage design is made up of catch basin to drain manhole system. So the catch basins will collect the runoff, and the drain manholes will direct it into, we have 3 open basins. We have this basin here, which is basin 1. There's another basin here, which is basin 2. We have a small basin here, which is basin 3. So the way the drainage design works is this site in the existing conditions, half of the site flows to this wetland here, and the other half flows to this wetland in this location here in the center of the lot. And then it goes down this drainage channel and goes through the culvert like
Across the street.
across the street.
To my
Correct.
property, yeah,
Yep.
so it's gonna end up.
So the way I designed it was, I take this high point in this location here, half of the pavement in the grading, as well as the existing conditions. Half of that will go into basin 1. The other half of this area here will go into basin 2. And then from this point here, the drive comes down, and the last set of catch basins are right here. It'll just collect the drive, and that'll go into this small little basin here. Finally, this last 100 feet in this location here will not just run right off into Main Street. We have 2 catch basins at the entrance with a storm scepter. A storm scepter is a mechanical structure that cleans the water. Because we don't have room to put it into a basin, we have a mechanical structure in a manhole that will treat the water and then discharge it into that swale, that drainage swale there. And then we do have an underground basin in this location here, and that basically handles the building roof. So under stormwater management, because you put the buildings and all this pavement where there was wooded area, we have to replicate what the existing conditions are. So by putting pavement down in roof, you do not allow the runoff, or when it rains, to infiltrate the ground. So what we do is we collect the roof and we kind of put it in this underground basin under the pavement, which will replicate the existing conditions and will meet the requirement that stormwater management requires us to do. So because of the type of soil that is here, we come up with a number that we have to meet that infiltration amount. Also, through stormwater management, we have to treat the water, and we have to, anytime it rains and it falls on the pavement, there's silt from plowing, there's oil and gas. So the catch basins have hoods that remove the oil and gas from the water. Then that goes down and it goes into a small portion of the pond, which is called a forebay, where that area collects any kind of silt, like when they sand the parking lots, it'll collect there. Then it goes into an infiltration area, which the second portion of the pond is we get additional infiltration. So you have infiltration in the underground basin, that's basically what that does, but you also have infiltration in pond 1 and in pond 2. And then once we mitigate the storm events, which basically, because you put the pavement down in the building, you have to hold the water back so you're not increasing any flow or any runoff off-site. So what we did is we held the water back, so that we have to do that through stormwater management. So we held that back, and we decreased the volume leaving the site as well as the rate. So we went above and beyond, because stormwater management only requires you to not increase the flow. But we also decreased the volume leaving the site, so we're kind of forcing the water that comes on our site to infiltrate into the ground. So, I guess in summary, for the project, Basically, what we have is we have 67% open space on this parcel, which roughly equals 4.5 acres in size. And the building is approximately 350 feet off of Main Street. And the proposed drainage design exceeds the state standard through stormwater management. We exceed the design mainly because the town requires it as well. The town does require under their comprehensive permit that you cannot increase rate or volume off-site. So we had to meet that, but that's beneficial for the surrounding areas that do have, water problems now because we're maintaining everything on site. Emphasize that the access driveway is safe. We do, like I said, it's a 24-foot wide access drive, has a sidewalk on the westerly side of the access drive. We also did a truck turnings simulation that shows a fire truck going through the site, so we meet that. We have not met with the fire chief yet, but we are planning to meet with him. And then, we look forward to addressing all of the peer review comments from the peer review engineer. And I want to hand it over to Jeremy.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Jeremy Baldwin with Mongol DiStefano Architects. I am the architect of record on this project. At Mongol DiStefano, we have offices located in Harvard, Massachusetts, and in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. We have a variety of studios that go from commercial, high-end residential, life sciences, but I lead up the multifamily division at Mongol DiStefano. And we have a very diverse portfolio of multifamily housing throughout New England, but in particular Massachusetts and 40B projects. So we're very familiar with this process, and I'd just like to take you through a little bit of our role up to this point. All right, so I'd like to just start off with a high-level view of the site and the neighboring community. You have Pickering and Sons Funeral Home just to the south of our property, right along Main Street. But then we've also focused a little bit on Whitney Lane and Hazeltine Road, as well as School Street. And that's why they're highlighted, just so you understand and get your bearings on the site location. So we have, as has been mentioned before, we have 4 total built structures on site, the 68-unit building in the center, and then 3 garage ancillary buildings on the outside. Here's a high-level overview of the floor plans, a couple of them being 1 the basement floor and 2 the first floor. I just wanted to point out a couple of things about the building itself. It's going to be a total of 49.5 feet in total height, with an area of 92,000 square feet. It's 4 stories plus a basement, and we also have parapets to hide any of the rooftop equipment. One thing that we should focus on quite a bit is the building code and the energy conservation code changes in Massachusetts. Massachusetts has adopted very strict requirements that are above and beyond any other state in the U.S. With the new stretch energy code. So the sustainability factor on these buildings is over the past year is above and beyond any other state at this point, New Hampshire or Maine or any other New England community. They are all, as Kevin had mentioned, they are all electric. And so that's another sustainability factor, but the amount of installation and usage of energy on this site is going to be a major focus to meet all of the stretch energy code. The building is fully sprinklered, And so it is, as far as life safety goes, you probably can't get any safer than these types of buildings because of the egress requirements, the accessibility. And that's another thing I'd like to focus on, is that the accessibility of these buildings is 100% of those units are fully accessible and adaptable. So you have blocking in walls, you have strict clearance requirements because we are abiding by the 521 CMR Massachusetts Accessibility Code, which requires pretty strict requirements for clearances of bathrooms, kitchens, and in the public spaces as well. There's elevator access to every floor, and all of the doors on an accessible route have a minimum of 32 inches clearance. And again, going back to just if somebody becomes disabled in one of these units by any means, it is the responsibility of the owner to then make that fully accessible with handrails, guardrail, grab bars in any of the bathrooms, changing the sinks and the accessibility into and underneath any of those sinks. And can we go to next? I want to focus a little bit on the style and the size of the building right now. So one thing we have is first is the types of materials. We're using a cedar style shingle and lap siding, and also a stone base. It also plays with a lot of the surrounding community material palette in the single family homes. The outdoor amenities that we have on site are the grill area, the playground, the dog park, and covered parking. As far as the interior amenities go, we have a large community room, a fitness center, bike storage, private tenant storage, a package room, co-working space, and also a dog wash area. We did not do a pitched roof on here for one major reason, and that is because it would increase the height of the building by anywhere between 15 and 25 feet in height. We are at 49 feet right now, so that would bump us up above 60 feet in height, and we really wanted to focus on reducing the visibility of the building to the neighboring parcels. Thanks. Just a brief view going back to the style and the material palette that we have. As I said, you have the stone base on the first floor. The white siding is the clapboard lap siding, and the brown areas are the cedar style shingles. And again, just another view from the back side of the building. This is just a project that I worked on with Kevin down in Lakeville. It's just to give you an idea of what is to be expected of these units on the interior. These are the style that we're going for. I know that the impression of a 40B project can be that is subsidized housing, that it is, but we really wanted to focus on that, the fact that these are nice looking units on the inside. So this slide is just going to give you we're going to go through a few of the views that we have around the site. What we've chosen is the most impacted sites as far as visibility of the building goes. We're going to focus on one from Whitney Lane, one from Hazelton Road, one from Main Street, and another from School Street. And we focused on these specific zones because they are the most impacted by the building, and we want to give you a realistic view of what it's going to be at the end. So here's just a view of what the existing conditions are at Whitney Lane between 17 and 19. And you'll see by the next slide what we're going to be doing. It's taking down some of the trees, but what we want to focus on is I spend several hours walking the site with Kevin and the rest of the team here, and we meticulously went over which trees would be remaining, which would be gone, which are deciduous, which are evergreens, because we were paying close attention to what those views are going to be, because we're trying to give you a realistic view. We're not, within our program that we use to get these views, we're able to geolocate the building according to where you're standing on the site and what that visual impact is going to be and where the height is, what the setback is. And within this view, you can see here that our building sits down about 12 feet lower than this current elevation on Whitney Lane. So we have a 4-story building, but at this point, when the building is down that far, you're essentially looking at the 2nd floor here. And so when we do a comparison of this house, the single-family home house on the right, in comparison to our building is essentially about 8 feet taller than that ridge point because of how it's located and how it tapers down on the site. Next.
Do you have a mirror image during?
Sir. So this is a view from Hazeltine, and you'll see here the next slide that we really don't have any impact at all from this view, but we wanted to at least show you a ghosted image of where it is, because it sits so far down the site and far away that it's not visible from this view, but we at least wanted to show what it would look like from this perspective if trees were completely taken down, but they're not going to be in this location. Next. The Pickering and Sons Funeral Home, this is the existing conditions right now, and so when we go to the next view, there's the building where we have a buffer of a fence and some trees, but it should be noted that we specifically focused on the tiniest spot that the building would be visible on this view, because even if you walk up and down this road, you're only seeing this view for a matter of 10 feet. When you get past to the left, or when you go past to the right, the building is not visible at all because there's such a buffer of trees. It's really right at the driveway that you get this visual impact. Next. This is the view from School Street. And you can go to the next one. That's the existing. Here's the proposed conditions of what the building is, because we focused a lot on this image here because we have the detention pond over on the left, and we were concerned about a lot of trees being down in that area. But one, we have a pretty heavy buffer of acerbites and other shrubs right along the detention pond. But on top of that, there are pretty significant pine trees that are located in this area that I was trying to make that building more visible, but it just wasn't possible because we have such a heavy buffer of evergreens and other tall trees. And it should be noted that the trees on site are anywhere from 60 to 70 plus feet tall. Our building is currently at 49.5 feet, so by no means it will be above any tree line from anywhere around the surrounding area.
Can you zoom in on that, please, and remind us what the vantage point is?
So again, this is, can you scroll to the top today, please? So this is between 4 and 6. So there's one, I believe 4 is on the left, 6 is on the right. So that I'm standing currently at the driveway of 4. And I'm looking into the back. So I'm happy to answer any questions that the members of the board and the public have at this point, and I'm going to give it back to Kevin Lobiser. Oh, I'll give it back to the board.
That's the conclusion of our presentation.
Thank you. Okay.
All right.
Mike Antonellis, Director of Inspectional Services, Town Planner. As, I'm not going to take much time. I know people are eager to comment. I know we went over a lot of details already with the application and the engineering. The board should just take a formal vote. Yep, regarding, I'm just calling that out specifically because that is for the peer review engineering services that will evaluate a lot of what was discussed tonight. Because I know folks are going to have specific questions about, obviously the drainage was already mentioned, things of that nature. So that'll be addressed through the peer review engineer. So I would just ask the board to take a vote on that. And then, everything that was shown tonight will be posted on the zoning board's website, the webpage where we're already posting all of the permit materials. So
Same Dropbox?
But you won't have to access the Dropbox. It'll just be on the town's zoning board webpage. So that will be available to everybody to review after tonight's meeting. And then, very last thing is I saw that some folks had left already during the meeting. If you want to provide comments, and maybe if you know the people who left, you feel free to email me your comments, and I'll get them to the board. And so that'll be on record. So anybody who left early, or if you think of something after the meeting, obviously, that you want to say, feel free to contact my office with it. Thank you.
Normally in any project that's developed, we have a lot of expertise in the town. Planning board and specifically the conservation board. And those people really know their stuff. I have a lot of respect for them. This process does not, we get comments from them, but we need to hire basically some more expertise. So that's the first act that we do. But I do want to make specific compliments from many of the boards. Some of them gave some really very specific feedback. Just off the top of the head, conservation was one that gave extremely specific feedback, like literally as to how many feet from wetlands and things like that. And I want to compliment them for doing that for me, for us, I should say. Yes, definitely. Planning went through a whole bunch of things. Every single board chimes in, so I just want to say thank you to them ahead of time. But, gentlemen, we have to, we basically have to actually have a formal motion to hire a consulting firm.
Mr. Chairman, you might want to just run by what we're peer reviewing, what subjects we're peer reviewing.
Sure.
And make sure that we get confirmation from the applicant that they are happy with that peer reviewer that we're choosing.
So I reached out to, on behalf of the board, I reached out to Stan Tech, who is contracted with the planning board and reviews a lot of the large projects. You have a scope of services that was provided to you. This was also provided to the applicant for their review. I'll let them comment as to whether or not they agree upon it. They had indicated to me previously that it was acceptable. The scope, it will basically be civil engineering review, reviewing with site plan regulations, zoning bylaw, any local regulations that we have that we would typically review upon that would impact design, as well as general engineering, good practice. As I mentioned before, the stormwater, that is included, and the traffic engineering review that was provided. I made mention in my staff review that throughout the 180 days, there may be other information that is provided by the applicant, and at that time, we can have a discussion with the board and the applicant as to expanding that scope for additional review. And the cost was going to be $10,739 for the peer review services.
For those who are unaware, we used Stantec in the previously on. Yours wasn't the last 40B, believe it or not. James Road was.
Oh yes.
He did when he reviewed it, he found that particular project was going to slightly increase water off of the property. We made it, because of that finding, we made it a condition that excess water could not leave that property, and they had to change the engineering to reflect that. So this is one of the reasons why we use a peer review process. I think you already somehow heard some of the concerns we're going to have, particularly about water. That's an extremely important topic to me and everyone else. So I'm glad to hear you've already put some thought into that. But we need to hire our own people to make sure that you've crossed your T's and dotted your I's.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that the zoning board engage Santex for formal peer review of this project.
Don Spargo, aye.
No, you got a second motion?
Second motion. I'm seconding the motion.
Okay. No one said unanimous of the board because we used to be just 3 members. Okay, so the motion has been made and seconded. Bill Andrews, aye.
Bob Humes, aye. Don Spargo, aye.
Bob Butler, aye.
Eric Russell, aye.
Thank you, Eric.
Mr. Chairman, just for the record, it may be good if the applicant could, on the record, say that they're okay with that, with the scope of review.
Ed Marchand, we did have an opportunity to review the scope of work of the proposal, and it was acceptable to Kevin. I just wanted to clarify, I know the board is aware that you select the peer reviewer. Kevin gets to pay for the peer review.
Yes. That's
not a public,
that is accurate. That is accurate, but it's always good to have on the record that the applicant thought the scope was acceptable. The other thing, Mr. Chairman, you may want to do is just have the board give authority that our peer reviewers can speak directly to the applicant and his team.
Yes,
if that's acceptable.
Specifically, yeah, the engineer-to-engineer discussions were very fruitful. But for everyone, they can't make any decisions. All decisions go through the board. They're advisors. They're not decision makers. Does that make sense to you? Everything that's decided has to be at a public hearing of which you are participating in tonight. Okay. All right, I'm going to open this up to questions, and I'll get you right to the second. Just one quick comment. We have actually had a tremendous, I shouldn't say tremendous, we've had a fairly good number of emails that came in. I'm not going to read them all. They're all in the public. I'm sorry, that's an incorrect record. I have read them all, every single one, every single line. I'm not going to read them into the record because they're already part of the record. Michael takes care of putting that in. I do want to just throw one piece out of praise. We got one today by Paul Norton, and he not only expressed concerns, but he actually suggested that he wanted a high fence around the property to help alleviate light pollution, sound, things like that. Now, knowing the design, the way you're going to cut it in, and some fencing, you've already taken some of that into account. But when you do make comments, it's very, very helpful to us on the board if you are specific, if you have remediations that you want to suggest. It doesn't mean we're going to take every single one, but we do listen. And it's very helpful to us if you give very specific suggestions. Okay? Now, when I open this up, we're going to go around. I'm going to try. There is a lot of us here tonight. If we all spoke for 10 minutes, do the math. So as each person expresses themselves in the questions, I'm going to ask and poll the audience a little bit. Like if your concern is wetland, for example, I'm going to ask you to raise your hand. If all of you raise your hands, you're concerned about the water, then we know that that's been brought up. The next person doesn't have to bring it up again because you've already just expressed that. You're letting the whole group know. For everyone, if you don't know me in my regular life, I'm Mr. Move the Question at town meeting. I like things moving along. And I want to thank everyone that listened to each other, because that's our job tonight, is to listen to you too. So, young lady, you raised your hand in the back. Now, when you come up to the mic to speak, Amy's job is to record who you are and where you live. So if you can come on up, speak to the mic, or if you've got a nice loud voice, can you please say, first off, who you are and your street address. Thank you.
Hi, so I'm Megan Lacasse, this is Dan Lacasse, we live at 6 School Street. Oh, sorry.
There you go.
Thank you. I sounded loud. I'm Megan Lacasse, this is Dan Lacasse, we live at 6 School Street. We saw the photo of the height of the building from the sidewalk. Our house is set far back and very, very close, I think 175 feet from the building. And we were wondering if there's anything that you can do to provide more privacy to our house, our yard, because people's windows will be looking right into our windows, and that is quite concerning, especially with how little impact that I know has to do with the grade and everything like that for people on other streets, but falls in our house is definitely affected the most. And
so, yes, potential point of clarification, or just from our perspective to add context to the pictures we saw from School Street. My driveway is approximately 200 feet long. So oh, sorry. So to add context to the view that we saw from School Street, I believe that photo was taken or / rendered from the sidewalk. My driveway, or our driveway, is about 200 feet to where our garage is, which is the building you can see in the back, and our house is a little bit closer. And I sort of disagree with the statement that there are a lot of evergreen trees. Basically during when the leaves continue to fall, we can see the houses on Hazeltine and Whitney, lights shining on people's back porches through there. So I mean, I'd be really interested to see what that looks like in a month from now, because I suspect it's going to be a lot worse. All of those trees you could see basically on my property, I don't think we have a single pine tree that's left. Also worth noting, the back of our property gets very wet. In fact, the previous landowner had planted a row of arborvitaes along the stone wall that's on our side of the property, and they all died because there's too much water in the ground there for them to live.
All right, hold on. This is how we're going to make it official. Can you, if privacy from your property is an important concern to you, just in this, my last life as a teacher, you can raise your hand and we would do this. Okay. So we get a quick view as a board how big a concern that is to you, and there's a lot of people that have that concern. Okay, yes, sir. You have a question? No, not a question. Oh, you actually have a question. I thought you had a second question.
Actually, I have a comment.
Okay.
Paul Norton, 4 School Street. Okay, that picture that was taken was up my driveway, looking right down. I happen to be a photographer, 30 years experience in the commercial photography field. Cameras tell the truth and they also lie at the same time. Because that was definitely a wide angle lens shot. Trees closer to the camera look big, things farther away look small. If you're in the end of my driveway where the garage is, you look up at trees 30 or 40 feet, the building's going to be higher than that. So the building's going to be visible to us at 4 School Street, 6 School Street, and 10 School Street. And the comment is about evergreens. There are very few evergreens blocking that area of the building. Okay. Now that is, I've lived in that spot for a lot of years.
Okay. All right.
Okay. My question would be, since the building is so high and most of the trees are deciduous, are you going to have any kind of shielding on the upper story light so that they do not impact the homes on School Street? Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else concerned about light pollution? See why I'm doing this? Okay. So light pollution is a big concern. Just so you know, in my own notes, I've now written down 2 concerns, and we're going to try to work with solutions to these. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Marcia Kasolowski at 10 Whitney Lane, and I did a set of slides for, and I represent a number of people in the room.
My question to you is, how many, how long? Look behind you. You see what I'm saying?
I'll give my time. I'll give my spot. My spot.
I'm going to keep this very organized. It's not going to make me popular. Okay? Just understand that. How many slides?
There are pictures, so I think there's like 19.
Are these the same pictures that you sent in your email?
No. Some of them are, but I'll skip those. There's a lot of things I can skip after hearing the attorney's presentation.
What did we say?
When we talked about you, we had said if she was speaking for many, many people, that you would be willing to elevate it to 10 minutes.
Yes, if you're speaking for many, many. But I'm going to set a timer, because we're going to make sure that as many people that want to speak get a chance to speak.
Well, excuse me, but there was no timer set over here.
Right. That's correct.
Or over there.
That's correct, sir.
So
That's
now we're gonna set a
100%,
timer.
sir, that's correct. He has a lot of information to present. and
We
so
have
did
a
him.
lot of information.
I agree. And I'm going to keep this a very organized meeting so that as many people get to present as
About
possible.
fair.
What's that, sir?
About fair.
Sir.
Fair.
Sir, I can hear that.
All right, well, you pretended like you didn't hear it, so I didn't know.
Sir, I'm a very polite gentleman, okay? Yeah, I'm going to say, gentlemen, if you don't mind sitting for 10 minutes, I'm going to set a timer, and your concerns are very important to me and to the entire board. But I'm going to warn you, I'm going to cut you off, no more than that. I did see some of the pictures, and I read your email very carefully.
Thank you.
If we outlawed all development within 2 miles of the town wells, we would have no development in this town. That's not the freedom this board is given.
Interesting.
I think it was very important for us to hear from the attorney, so we all understand what the ground rules we're playing with. So, can you share that screen up, Mike?
I want to say, though, to begin, I have nothing against the builder, none of us do, and none of us have any problems with affordable housing. We live in fear of any development in our area because every time we have development, we have flooding. When they built Laurel Lane, we had renewed issues with water and flooding, and I don't think people understand just how bad it is. And I do include some pictures that will give you an idea. Okay. Next slide.
Hold on, I'm trying to make it bigger.
Oh, sorry.
This doesn't count as that 10 minutes.
Here we go.
Okay. And again, we're not against affordable housing. We understand that we need it, but it's the suitability and feasibility of this particular location. Lifelong residents here, especially retirees in our neighborhood, are moving out because they can no longer afford to live here. So it's a double-edged sword in what they're trying to do. Okay. In the original application, it said 4 stories, and as you could see from the picture on the first, there's actually 5 stories. And that, why do we care? With 5 stories, you have fire trucks coming up, and if they, during the application, said, yes, our trucks can make it, ladders can make it, 5 stories is a different story. No pun intended. Okay. So what will this do? It's going to destroy critical trees, wetlands, and habitat. And would I like to talk about that? Okay, cleans the
It's your 10 minutes, ma'am.
Okay. As you can see, it lessens erosion, stormwater, it controls stormwater, water flow. This is going to destroy the wildlife habitat for the animals that were already displaced from Laurel Lane development. And as far as storing salty snow and having all of the lawn and chemicals and so forth, the wetlands are going to be destroyed. And we talked about maintaining privacy. Next. Okay, and we're talking about drinking water here, which I know you don't want me to, but lifelong residents said there were 2 streams here when they were kids. The streams were evidently buried at some point when they built our neighborhood. When lifelong residents said the first memorial school was built, there was such serious flooding that the fire department had to pump out basements. The Whitney development created flooding, wetlands, and a brook. And we have someone here who suffers from this. And this goes down multiple streets. and this is going to make his life a lot worse. Laurel Lane changed water flow. We have new sinkholes, other drainage damage. People are concerned about the entrance road and the structures to create a dam, and we talked about a fence, creating more flooding in the surrounding properties. Removing trees and brush will excel erosion, and I gather you're trying to not do that now in your current plan. So I thank you for that. We've been advised that a hydrological testing of the area is needed before another shovel goes in the ground, because they have to understand the flow of these underground streams. Because whatever happens, water is going to come out somewhere. Next. And we talked about, I think they've already talked about the pumping stations. We have area residents that depend on private wells, so preserving this underground water, that is our only drinking water. We don't have a reservoir. Okay. Right now, the land filters our water, and instead of filtering the water, it's going to be built up, so it's going to add to the contamination with asphalt, oil, lawn chemicals, insecticide, road chemicals, and dog park waste. We already have a ban on water, and we're not supposed to talk about that. Okay.
This is going to shock you. My number one concern is the water coming down that hill. And so it's not like I'm not against that. That's my number one. When I talk to the residents in that area, that's my number one. I don't know if
we don't sleep at night because we're so paranoid about this development. And people can raise hands if that's...
Yeah, no, that's... So I just want you... It's not that we're not talking about water. Water is a very important issue. I think, obviously, from the engineering point of view, you know, they heard that even before this meeting. I was involved personally in a project where a house below a hill where I was building had a lot of water issues. When I did a building, single small building, I was required to, and this does not count on your 10 minutes.
Thank you.
I was required to put in a rain garden and have paving material that absorbed the moisture into the ground, and so it wouldn't run off. My downhill neighbor loves me because I solved his water problem on my property. I thought the rain garden was a joke, to be completely true. It's basically a mini retention pond. And it solved his water problems. So you get an extra minute thrown on.
Thank you. Okay, school safety is a big concern, and I gather school safety is not one of the issues that we can talk about, but right now, traffic might be, and that is the entrance to the school on Fisk Ave is becoming a nightmare. We're really worried about the kids. A neighbor put up signs to get kids to slow down. There's such a problem with the clogging at traffic at Hartford Ave and at School Street that people found Fisk Avenue as a cut through, and that's where all the kids are. That's where the walkers are, and it's creating a real nightmare, and we're just waiting for an accident to happen. In the traffic study, it said that with the 68 units, there weren't going to be a significant amount of additional traffic. We think that 2 people in each of these units, that'll be 132 cars, they're not going to want to go to the clogged intersections. They're going to want to go on Fisk, and it's going to be a hazard. Some child is going to be killed. Or walker.
Yeah.
The number of vehicles impacted rush hour in the study that was done claims that there's going to be 18 additional vehicles in the morning and 27 in the afternoon. No offense, but we don't believe it. I mean, raise a hand. I mean, we see that the traffic is down. You can't have 68 units and have that little. The line of sight was not seen as an issue. We see what happens when there's a funeral or when there's parking along that street. You can't see, and there's going to be accidents. We ask that you do another study that takes into consideration the school in Fisk Avenue and the line of sight again from that building, because it's an accident waiting to happen. 140, excuse me, already has more accidents than Massachusetts thinks appropriate. So they're going to do a study on some of the intersections because the rate's so bad. Okay, the other thing I've already talked about, we're concerned about the fact that it's really 5 stories on one side, so what does that do to a fire truck? Parking spaces are inadequate. In the documentation we have, we counted 104 spaces, and if you have 2 cars per unit, that's 132 vehicles. If you live in the city, not everyone needs a car. If you live in Upton, you need a car. Okay, and that doesn't count the handicap spaces that need van access. So therefore you need a bigger space. I don't know if that's been taken into consideration. We also need visitor spaces too, because what's going to happen is, and then you're going to have snowbanks blocking, but if that isn't taken into consideration, when there's an emergency vehicle that comes in there, you might have space to get around the building, but people are going to park in the wrong spaces because there's no place to park, and something horrible is going to happen. This area is surrounded by historic homes. Flooding will damage these homes that are on the Massachusetts and National Historic Registers. Excavation, possible blasting, construction could damage homes on the Massachusetts and National Registers. Historic Upton, there was a trolley that went through this property, and I don't know if any investigation has been done into seeing if there's something there to salvage. There's arrangements of stones that could have historical significance to Native American tribes. That needs to be investigated by a professional in this field. And here's the map. Oops. I just wanted to point out the map because each one of those dots, that whole pink area is on the National Register. Every one of those dots is a historically landmark, a historic house. So in that area, there's a lot of houses that could be destroyed. And with archaeological significance, this well taps into an underground spring. No one trespassed. That was done from a neighbor's yard, but you can see the stones around it. We know that there's other artifacts on that land. We did not trespass to get pictures. This area has wetlands throughout. There's an abundance of wildlife that depends on the wetlands, the clean drinking water. You're talking about storing snow in an area that's going to poison basically the wetlands. There are vernal pools because we have salamanders and frogs in our backyards. Sorry. The only entry onto the property has wetlands. How can building equipment get into the property without destroying this area? How can the building of the road happen with wetlands on both sides and not destroy the wetlands? The road will cross wetlands in places. The road could act as a dam or a funnel. And you talked about the funnel as far as putting drains along the way on the road going down, but the dam could really cause some problems up on Whitney Lane, or cause a dam that will break and flood houses down below. And you're saying, why are we looking at this? If you look over here, my neighbor and I were in my driveway when, after a rainstorm, and a tree fell over because this is wetlands. Notice the root ball is really small because there aren't any roots because it grew in the wetlands. Here's the tree laying down. If trees are falling over and it has that kind of root ball, it should be wetlands. And when we look at the wetlands map, the neighbors surrounding here do not agree with the ORAD.
Just pick what you want.
And we're concerned, you've already talked about the developer's waiver, I guess our legal representative did. And when we look at the mass housing, it said, work with the people of the town. And we hope you will, because the waivers scare the hell out of us, pardon me.
There will be much discussion on waivers.
Okay. The mass housing eligibility letter has a footnote that says they rely on the truthfulness and completeness of the information with respect to the approval. And we found some issues with the application. Okay. In the address, they're missing 21 Whitney. So that was one issue. Here they had the wrong person owning 51 Main Street, and we can see the date that it was actually sold. It took us a long time to put together this timeline for the wetlands. There was an ad run done in 210, and then on 426, we see the Goddard reports, and there's two of them, both the INRED and the revised. When information first went out about this, it was at 0 Main Street. And to be honest, nobody in our neighborhood knew what 0 Main Street was. So, and a lot of people did not get the notification. If you have copies of the certification, the signatures of receipt, please let us know, because people don't remember ever getting this.
We're 100% certain we did.
Pardon?
We're 100% certain we didn't.
The other thing is the Conservation Committee had a meeting, and it was spread by word of mouth, and it was for 6 houses. And we weren't worried about the houses, we were worried about the water and the issues. And if you want to go back to the 6 houses, it doesn't scare us as much as a 5-story building. Okay, the Conservation Commission performed a walkthrough, and then on 6/30 there was an ORAD completed. And they said in this, it's signed, that letters were hand-delivered to abutters so that they could appeal within 10 business days. I have yet to find one person that received that hand-delivered letter. Okay, so the letters were supposed to be delivered on 6/30. I sent out emails to 20 abutters. 13 said they were sure they didn't because they would remember receiving a hand-delivered letter. No one that received it said they actually, no one that received the email said they actually received the hand-delivered letter.
Marcia, we're on the same thing.
Okay.
We actually gave you way past that time because some of the things you mentioned, but at town meeting I say no more than 2 bites of the apple. If you say the same thing more than twice,
sorry,
that's where I'm going to cut you off.
You're done. Anyone else defer?
There were 2 gentlemen that were in line, and I promised them that I would get to them.
Okay.
So, but I do want to make a note, and maybe someone from conservation at some point can address this concern with the abutters. Conservation is a little weird. I had to go through them for the house I'm building, because I love that neighborhood too. And we give letters that have a date certain on the meeting. And when I had to send them out for conservation. It didn't have to include the date certain. So I can understand why there's some confusion there. But I would ask that we get it clarified from conservation. When the professionals come out and delineate what is wetland, that's just a delineation. It doesn't matter what's going to go there eventually. That's the wetland you got to stay away from. There is a great letter from the Conservation Commission specifying like where they're too close to the wetlands that normally would be a problem, then have to get approval for a variance on that sort of thing from the conservation. There will be more discussion on that.
Okay, we would have asked for a review because people looking out their backyards swear that they have wetlands.
I think I had a wetland in my house this summer. My sneakers still aren't dry because that's how much water we had this summer.
Yeah.
But anyways, I do want to, I promised these gentlemen the
Can
chance
I
to speak.
come back if we have time?
Let's see how we go.
Thank you.
But my point is, yes, thank you.
My name is John Reed, 19 Whitney Lane.
Thank you.
One of those pictures that showed the building, that was one of those houses was mine.
Excellent.
I also have the distinction of being the person who Kevin mentioned that 60 feet from the building. So I would argue that my house is the closest of any of these houses to this building.
Yep.
Okay, so there's a lot at stake for me
concern.
And my wife. The pictures that they took of the depictions with the building, all deciduous trees. I'd like to see those pictures if they were taken in the winter time and see how it looks then. I'm not accusing anybody of being deceptive. They took the pictures during the summer.
Yep.
However, it did the job. It presented a good picture.
I think that's a completely legitimate concern. I think as we move forward, do you still have the tiered rock wall on the uphill side with the planting and the fence? Is that currently still in your plan? Kevin, that's current? Yes. Okay, so we will make sure, he had already said that there's going to be like a tiered, a wall. The building's going to be set down, and there's going to be a planting of trees up there and a fence. Right. And I think we can guarantee you that those are going to not be deciduous trees, correct, sir? Correct. So that's the type of specific thing I like to hear, folks. So if you have a specific thing, we can try to remediate those.
Okay.
Thank you.
One more comment. Doing my research and trying to understand this whole process and preparing myself. I found a document called the Upton Center Business District Revitalization Design Standards. Now, I understand that this is not part of that, but there was a lot of common sense, and I'd like to quote one statement. It's under the section called residential, multifamily residential. Buildings are required to be oriented to minimize the intrusion of privacy of residents and adjacent buildings. Windows that overlook the living areas, that would be me, of adjacent buildings are unacceptable. Unacceptable. This is an Upton document. So I think that strong considerations should be given to this. Again, it's common sense, it's privacy, it's fairness, especially for the closest abutters. And then finally, I'll leave it with just a question for Mr. Lobitzer. I looked it up in the Massachusetts Handbook for Zoning Boards of Appeal. And one of the comments that said, encourage the developer to meet with neighbors before the public hearing and outside the public hearing process. Have you done that?
No, I have not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. My time's up.
How you doing? Kevin McLaughlin, 52 Main Street. I would actually challenge the gentleman that was just speaking. I believe I am the closest abutter. I am right next door. And this has been a sore subject for me and my family for a long time. When the funeral home was built, it was all cattails. Kenny Peterson pushed all the water over. When Hazeltine Whitney was built, it totally flooded my property. My parents bought my house in 1983. There was a buildable lot. I got 200 feet of frontage. My property's been destroyed. I'd like to know what you guys are going to do to mediate the water, and what you're going to do. Do you know where the water table sits right now? My property's been completely destroyed. If any more water gets on my property, I'm not even going to be able to cut my lawn because I'll be in the wetland buffer zone. It just, this seems to be like a law for the rich, and there's a different law for people like me, because you can build whatever you want, and I have 200 feet of frontage, and, you know, this is just not right.
I know you came in late. Were you here for the part where the engineer was describing?
I was not, but I heard you say if you solved the water problem on your neighbor's property.
Yeah.
Well, I heard you say that,
Yeah.
and if you can do that for me,
part of the presentation, I believe it was you, sir. He's the civil engineer. And
civil engineers design Hazeltown and Whitney too.
it's a different thing, but so I will say that with Stantec, he's going to check your figures.
Regardless of the figures, I mean, the water table is what the water table is. If you're going to be putting all your snow over there, there's a culvert on the same side of the street as a funeral home. There's a pipe that runs through the ground. None of that's detailed on any of this.
Sir,
the culvert on the other side drains on my property.
I'm sorry that you were unable to attend the full meeting. The person, the engineering, started with the very first thing with the engineering. He went through that they should be able to make less water. He's currently engineered it to the standard that less water comes off of that property than currently.
They should be.
That's what.
What if they don't?
Well, we're going to have Stantec evaluate it to make sure he's. Because I'll tell you, my number one concern. What did I say it is? Water.
Right.
So he's heard that loud and clear. The fact that he's already put in the design with the catch basins that he's claiming.
A catch basin's porous?
There's a big difference. There's difference between water running off the surface and running going down in.
I'm aware.
No project is going to be allowed to put extra water more than what currently is coming off the surface.
So what happened to my property?
If this works, and he did his job right, you should have less. That's what he's already told us tonight. Having been through something like this, as I say, my neighbor loves me for what happened down there. We are going to have it checked, and I'm going to invite you back.
Well, there was some pictures submitted of my property in 2000, and even after Laurel Lane was built. I mean, take a look at it now. It's a jungle. I've got young kids. There's nothing but vermin in there. I mean, if he's going to be able to build this, he's putting a pipeline he's putting the gas, the sewer, right through a wetland.
Yes.
Right through a wetland. And if I could put a pipe from the culvert to the other end of my property wouldn't be wet. So, Mr. Lobiser, it would be great if you could just maybe put a pipe so all that, I wouldn't have to worry about the water.
Well,
we are. I think I asked you to take a look at the property. I asked if you were interested. I got all the frontage and everything. You never got back to me.
Okay. All right, sir. There's something we're waiting for you. Your concern is very high priority.
Yeah, I'm right next door.
Thank you. Water? Okay. Thank you, sir.
Before we vote on that, let me just go further. Rick McGuire, 11 Whitney Lane.
Oh, yeah.
I am in a butter, but I'm at 11, and behind my property, I have wetlands. Skunk cabbage, Boston ferns, and I walk into the backyard, which is actually the property 51 Main Street. And if you walk back there, it's all wet. This past summer, not this one, a year ago, in August when we had the drought, I walked back into 51 Main Street because there was a new resident there. And what you see is there's water there constantly. And if you walk closer to the gentleman's house on 51, there's standing water. In the drought of last August, the last week of August before we got rain, it was still water. And the water is flowing, and the water is flowing towards your property. And my wetlands is 354 feet, your building's 342, the water is flowing downhill. We have another problem, which Marcia touched on, but I want to emphasize. We have another situation where, if you look at the corner of Warren and High Street, Highland, that's the apex of the hill. There were two streams back in the 70s that were flowing down that hill, flowing towards Hazeltine, towards Whitney Lane. And the two streams, the builder that built WGB, that built our properties, buried those streams somewhere. So constantly, we have water running through the storm sewers all the time. The water is running down the hills, it's running down the street, in the backyard. The water is we're at 354. The water is always flowing downhill. It's there all summer. If you look behind corner of Fisk and Hazeltine in the winter, there's always a standing water and lakes back there. Some other neighbors on Fisk Avenue have had flooding in their backyard. Water is a constant problem. Now let me take you back in history. Back in the 1890s, I talked to some octogenarians and folks in their 90s. They said that backyard, that property that you're going to build on, was the cranberry bog. Why was it the cranberry bog? Because the people back there, the colonials, were very ingenious. They knew the water, they knew the streams were running down the hill, and they all went into that property you're building on. And somewhere in the 1910s, 1920s, they filled most of School Street with fill. That was the bog too. So this past summer, August, when I was walking at the end of the year, I went into what I thought was a dry spot, and I sunk to my ankles. Why? It's a bog. And there's flowing water down that hill constantly. So one of my concerns is that when you build your road, that you put culverts in there to address the water that's coming down from Fisk Avenue and down off of the hill to flow it through your property, number one. But number two, I'm sure the engineers, when they made their assumptions on putting how does the water flow off of the concrete, the roofs, they addressed that situation. They didn't address the situation where water is flowing down the hill, constantly flowing. There's springs back there. I'm sure they didn't address that. And all of us have experienced flooding in our homes. Mine 4 times. Some of these other folks, more than that. It is a problem, and we really need you to help us fix that. That's the main thing. The other thing is, we were hoping we would get buffer space between Whitney Lane and your complex. And I saw, and I thank you, because I do appreciate it. You did move the road, so it would give us more buffer space, and I do appreciate that. The other thing is, I would hope that we do keep that buffer space of about 50 feet between Whitney Lane and your complex. Why? Because that would help us eliminate the noise pollution, the light pollution, and I'm really suggesting some trees that would be 15 to 20 feet tall in that buffer zone, so we could begin to isolate that area on the noise. Otherwise, I mean, you have a beautiful building there. And we know we need 40 Bs. And so thank you for coming and sharing with us.
You're uphill of them.
I'm uphill.
You're uphill.
354, the village is 342, the backside's 332.
Right.
If you look up further the hill, it's my backyard is 360. I float down right at my property line. I go into the neighbors, and that's all wetland.
What I'm concerned is generally what he's doing lower on the hill will help the people even lower than him, but I don't think it's going to help him.
It's not going to help us.
It's not going to help you. So that's just, am I correct on that?
Yeah, it's going downhill.
It's going downhill.
Yeah, because it's about probably 360 to 70.
Right.
As you go closer to 50, the water's going downhill.
Yeah.
My concern is you're doing a good job taking care of the water that's coming off the roofs and off the blacktop. Yes, it's not accounting for everything else coming down the hill. We have all experienced flooding. Some of us have spent upwards of $25,000, $30,000 on remediation work. Many of us. How many? I've spent money doing remediation.
I've been here for 70 years, my family, and I've always had...
Okay, excuse me, ma'am. When I invite you to come up and speak after this young lady, but you have to give Amy your name and street address. She's going to beat me.
Hi there, I'm Sue Perry. I live at 24 Hazeltine. I took a walk in 2022 with the Conservation Committee, and I was able to walk that area. It wasn't a real meeting or anything, but I was a resident that took a walk in that area. And I was able to step in water and put my hand on, I believe, the Freedman's fence. I've been in this town for 29 years, and I'm very familiar with the sorry, Mr. Officer. I'm aware of all of the area in the back there, and I live at 24 Hazeltine, so I'm not really an abutter, but There was just recently, the other day, a coyote walking down our street. It was photographed at 22 Hazeltine Road. There are many animals that live in that wetland, and they rely on the food and the water that is there to live their life, and I'm speaking for them. Thank you very much.
Wildlife concern?
Anybody? Wildlife here, right here.
There we go. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mary Ellen Kennedy.
Did the lady, let's say, there was a...
I asked her if she wanted to talk.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure I was following. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry to...
No, that's okay. Mary Ellen Kennedy, 22 Hazeltine Road. I actually have two questions. One is, how did you get the 67% of open space? Because when I do my calculation, I get 50%, and then you add paving to that. So I don't have the same percentage of open space that you have. And two, when you talk about the economics of making concessions on this, who determines whether or not it's economically feasible with the concessions, and what is that number of units that would make this economically feasible? Right? So 149 is 44 units. So that must have been economically feasible. So does my question make sense?
It completely makes sense.
Okay. So I have two questions.
So as part of the site plan application, they submitted a pro forma to Mass Housing that reviewed to make sure that the economics made sense and that they were not profiting at an amount that's too high. During the public hearing process, the board cannot ask that conditions that they provide some sort of updated pro forma based on the conditions. They can only claim that it's uneconomic based on the conditions at some point in time during the public hearing process. So that's not really in our purview.
Who determines that it's uneconomical?
Well, the Mass Housing.
Mass Housing
subsidizing
determines
agency.
what's economical.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No, good questions.
Thank you. And then the first question was, I don't know how you got 67% open space before paving. So I'm not quite sure how you got that number. I don't know who wants to
is in the computer.
So you have 6.75 acres of land, right? And you said, correct?
Yeah,
Correct.
4.5
And what's
open
the
space.
acreage for the building? 3.78, is that it?
I don't have that number
I
on.
thought you said
We
that.
will
Right,
I'll write that down.
Thank you.
Make sure we get that.
Do you want to go now?
Hi, I'm 55 Main Street, I'm Clara Giovanni, and I've lived there for over 70 years with my family.
I was
And
gonna say, there's
we
no
all
way.
day, 70
No,
years.
I'm looking at you and I'm saying, there's no way.
But my family has been there for 70
Thank you.
years. We've always had water problems. Every time they build behind us, and it doesn't matter what they do to try to run it off, whatever. There's a lot of streams back there. I have a stream right in my yard. It used to be a well for Bob's house. I have it. It's in my yard. They used to feed his well. So it's hard to divert water. Okay?
Yeah.
And there is a lot of animals. Bald eagles, falcons.
Yeah. We are rich in that
Yes.
town. It's
I love my backyard.
Yeah. No, I can turn. I know whatever he does though is not going to help Hazeltine and Whitney for water.
No.
School Street. I know there's some people here from School Street. I hope that it will help them, and I hope it will help on the other side of Main Street. I hope that gentleman, I think he's left,
Yes.
also gets helped out too. We can't help uphill, but we certainly can help downhill. Yes, sir. Come on right up.
Craig Winefuss, 8 Hazeltine Road. I had a question for Mr. Loberser. In some of the documents, it said it said his name, and then it said, I think it was handwritten. It said or assignee or leasee. So it made me think that he could build this property and then sell it to another person, and then he could make promises about what's going to happen with this building. But if he sells it to another person, they could totally default on the promises that were made to us, to our community. And my concern is maybe this 40B turns into Section 8 type housing. So could that scenario happen? Is that realistic?
I can address that in a second. Conditions of approval go on the property. It's forever. Am I correct in that?
You're
sir?
correct. It runs with the property, and even so more, that if there is an approval, it then needs to get approved by Mass Housing in the final approval process. And even then, if they wanted to transfer the property, they would have to get permission from the subsidizing agency, Mass Housing. And they have to approve the new owner to be somebody who could follow through with the regulatory agreements. So, and the comprehensive permit decision is going to be very clear that it runs with the property and goes on and forever and ever and ever. And the regulatory agreements are going to be recorded on the property to make it an affordable project under 40B. And if it gets transferred, they need to get permission first.
Yeah, and it goes right on the deed.
So is there any possible scenario where this could turn into Section 8 housing?
No.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, I really want to, anyone else have specific, wait a second, you started this meeting with a question, I paid you chocolate. No, him, but he's obviously, you're right line, sir, come on up if you have a question. Yeah, it's like town meeting, you just get in line and...
Hi, I'm Bob Norro, 57 Main Street. And what I'm coming up about, feel a little uneasy, felt a little bit like a filibuster and a great sales pitch. Good presentation if I want to buy one of these units. Really made it look wonderful. Nice looking building and all. You're doing a good job trying to hide it, but it's a nice looking building. To me, it looked a lot nicer than Milford than in our backyard. I work as a designer in different areas, and I always try to look at practicality. And for the life of me, I can't see the practicality of why take a parcel of land that's completely surrounded by houses, almost all single family. I do have multifamily on that area. But you're just about, I don't know all your statistics, haven't had a chance to do all the studies. I'm not on the payroll to be having a year and a half to prepare for this time, to come present what you're presenting to us, which I think is selling us a bad bill. There's enough other properties in Upton. I mean, I saw a nice Catholic church built just knowing the sign was there. Never saw that thing from the street. It's built, there's plenty of areas back there. I just can't see the logic of why take an area that's already very well settled, take a little bit of backyard to the house. It'd be good if it was, for Comfort Inn, I guess. That's what it looks like to me. But they have their place, but I don't think that's the right place for it.
The irony of it is a later agenda item is the church is looking to subdivide some of their land and sell off lots.
They might. Matter of fact, the chief of police a while back had a parcel of land that he wanted to sell. That would be a great place. He was bragging about how much land there was and stuff. I know it's a little bit pricey for the town,
Sir,
but...
I do love your humor, and your point is valid. Do you have a specific remediation or...
Sure. I have one other question. When we who live right around there see our properties plummet, are our taxes going to go down?
No.
And are we going to be paying more taxes when all the other areas get over demand? The school, okay, we can't touch that. The school system, or the sewage, or those things. What we know is going to happen. It's going to get overtaxed. And there'll be more taxes for us to pay more taxes for a place that's worth less. Because all of a sudden now your backyard turned to, you might as well be in Milford. Thank you.
Lori Woden, 7 Nelson Street. I have 2 questions, and one of them is, I guess, for the civil engineer. I'm wondering if you can show us on the picture where the main streams are. I think it's headwaters where the stream begins and goes through the property. And can you show us where it goes in relationship to where the building's going to be? I'm hoping you can maybe do that. And I also wonder if it does end up causing flooding and they're not able to fix it and they're not able to lessen the water like you're speaking of, do the families in the neighborhood have any recourse in terms of the builder if their properties get flooded and they have a lot of damage? So I guess that's my question. That's my question.
Could you, is it possible for you to pull up your slide and show, I mean, I know, I'm familiar with the property. I understand there's basically there's one that's going to go, trying to orient it, towards one and under 140, right? And there's one that's going to go, well, it flows down towards School Street. Is that correct?
Correct.
And there's just the 2. Is that correct?
Yeah, but they're not streams, they're just wetlands.
They're wet.
I think there are springs and there's an intermittent stream that goes right through your property. Yeah.
From the ORAD plan, there were no streams on the property.
There's definitely springs here.
We're gonna have, I think we're gonna have to, this is gonna be an area of continued discussion. How's that sound? We don't have all the answers yet. We've got to get Stan Tech involved, get our own civil engineer looking at it. My number one concern is water on that property. Okay, but I think that that's going to be an area of focus. I don't think we have the answer tonight, but we'll try to get it.
And the other thing I want to mention is this project is in the downtown district, and one in the downtown district for very specific reasons. I was part of the downtown revitalization group, and we decided then, we're very clear about it, that we wanted the architecture in the downtown area to fit the architecture in the rest of the community. And so that meant it was supposed to be sort of historically accurate. And I don't really think this building is. So I'm wondering if in the redesign, if there's some way to make it look more like the surrounding area, because you want it downtown, and that's what downtown is like, and that's what we said, and it's in the RFP for downtown. I know that's different buildings, but it might be something that you could work on and make it...
change the facade to make it look more historic.
More historic would be great. Thank you.
Oh, the architect's right there. Yes, sir.
How you doing? James Meyer, 35 Fisk Avenue. I just wanted to highlight a couple things. I'm a new resident. 2020, Lobster actually built my house, which is beautiful. Family of 4, 2 young kids, a 4 and a 3-year-old. This woman here mentioned one thing that was pretty near and dear to my heart. There's 3 reasons we moved to town: safety of our family, education, and then investment. I think education was well mentioned, and I don't have any fear about overflooding of schools. 68 units, probably not too many kids. I'm okay with that. Safety is a huge concern for me. My children are just starting to learn how to bike. Fisk Avenue is really going to become a throughway, especially with the water pipes that are being built. Now they're probably going to repave that road, and that's going to be a very major throughway from Main Street to Hartford Avenue. I fear every day for my kids. I've seen a dog get hit on that already. I know some neighbors here, the Goldens here. So that's a big concern to me. I was hoping to see a little bit of that. But safety. And then investment. We mentioned the historic village as part of the reason we moved to this town, nice quaint village. So I don't think this is going to help the investment of our property. Yeah. You asked for specific asks. I don't think it's fair. Probably they've done a lot of work to ask for a full denial of this. They're good people. They're trying to do good work here. Yeah. But maybe if we could reduce the number of units. And potentially someone made a joke that we don't have enough retail or good restaurants. If we could have a bottom floor of nice, newer age, commercial retail shops to make our town a little more of a destination, and then reduce the units maybe in half, that might meet us halfway and be a bit of a compromise.
He's heard your suggestion, but traffic with that changes.
I would say 130 vehicles across 68 units would be less than if you have the commercial shops taking off half the units. I haven't done all the trafficking reports. I'm going to leave that to the experts.
One of my favorite characters in this town is a really smart guy, Tom Davison. He said, everyone builds their castles and they want to pull up the drawbridge and not let anyone else in. That's from a member of the planning board. And I just chuckled at that. I agree with your concerns. Safety is a key. I don't know what this development will do to Fisk Ave.
It's going to become a major throughway to get.
But I think that that's something we fortunately have a very responsive police. I know I live on High Street, which is the highest traffic area street in the town. It's the one that goes out to 495. And when asked, they have actually put police officers on my street to kind of settle it down. I apologize to any of you that got tickets, but they will periodically come in if asked. So the police department's very responsive. I don't know. I don't know if Fisk Ave would even be in the traffic plan for that.
It should be. If they're coming out of the unit, it's going to be easier to take a right turn and a right turn to get on to Hartford than to take a left turn on North Main Street to go to Hartford.
Plus, it wasn't in school already.
Stantec will look at traffic. So part of our engineering review with Stantec, we'll look at the traffic. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Now want my value for that chocolate.
You will. David Bartlett, 21 Plain Street, Upton, obviously Upton. I'm a lifelong resident of Upton. My father built my home at 21 Plain Street in 1950. I was born there. I'm going to die there. We've always had water in our basement. In 2001, we finished our basement. In order to do so, we had to put in sump pumps. We put a generator in order to make sure the sump pumps run when we lose power, which is quite frequent. And then we actually put a backup to that, which is battery-operated sumps. Now, here's my concern. That gentleman on 52 Main, that water that goes through, or maybe under his property now, goes to Pleasant Street. From Pleasant Street, it goes to Plain, which is there's a little stream, which hits my property. Goes between 21 and, actually hits 21, 19, and 17, and eventually ends up down Depot Street. We don't need more water there. Can we make sure? How are we going to do this? I'm just supporting the water
I
issue.
totally understand. My daughter is on Depot Street, and the stream runs behind her house.
Yeah. So there is an actual stream there.
At that point, it's a stream that's viewable from you can just walk up to it and see it.
Yeah, you can see it on Plain Street.
So again, I don't know about the rest of the board. I can't speak for the whole board. Number one concern?
Water. So I'm moving beyond the 40B question.
Okay.
Thank you for the M&Ms.
Thank you, sir.
Craig Linefuss, 8 Hazeltine Road. I had a question for the board. I was wondering when all public comments are done, if Marcia could continue her presentation. I think she only has a couple more slides.
Is it something, you were stuck on one point you mentioned like 4 times. Is there a new point that you'd like to make?
And I can show you some pictures that I think would really help explain.
I saw the monster behind Peterson, the building there.
Oh, yeah.
That
I won't
wasn't-
show it because they've already shown theirs, but it was something to understand.
Okay. Is there any other questions that other people have? Because we have a gentleman here, because I promised everyone that wanted to speak would get an opportunity.
David Mercier, 149 Main Street. I don't want to discredit anybody's concerns here about water or any of the other factors of this potential project. But I do want to share my support for the project. As a resident of 149 Main Street, that building has given me an opportunity to live in this community, to escape sort of the hectic, high-cost living within the city, as well as given me a reliable place to live. Whereas if I were to live in a community like such as Worcester, you're more apt to live in a old-style 3-decker building. So while there are some concerns about the water, I do just want to add my support to this because it has given me a lot to be in this community.
Well, thank you. You are definitely the surprise speaker.
I am not going to ask for anybody to raise hands with me.
There we go. Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that wanted to make a comment that did not get that opportunity? I want to make sure everyone is heard that wants to speak.
Or online.
Oh, thank you, sir. I didn't even think about it. On people that are online. Can you manage that, Michael? Can you see if anyone's raising their hand there?
I don't see anybody raising their hand as of yet. I did share something in the chat asking if anybody would like to speak.
Let's just give them a quick moment.
Yeah.
Do you have the chat up?
Yep.
Okay. Can't see.
Oh, that's not connected to mine. I have.
Oh, okay. Because there's the red dot on there. I was thinking of that. But
is that Amy's computer? Is that yours?
No, definitely not me.
Okay. All right. Not seeing anything, Marcia, please keep it brief, and please don't get stuck on a point. Okay. And I want to thank those of you that came, all of you. You know, you may not like that I really tried to keep this very organized, but I really feel it is important that everyone get a chance to speak. Thank you.
That's where you left off?
Yeah, the wetlands assessment was something we already talked about, so the mass housing eligibility.
Go past this.
Well, I'll just point out is that it does say hand-delivered on 6/30, so we'll go by that. I just wanted to show you where this came from. I didn't make it up.
Yeah.
And this is an odd thing because in this certification, it's certified that on 4/26, that on 4/27, notification was given. So they signed before it actually happened.
Yeah.
And we can go by that. We can go by that. There's all kinds of map issues, so we can go by that. Summary of concerns, you can take a second to look at that, but, and we can go by that.
Can I stop? Marcia, can you share with me, I'm making a handwritten list of concerns. Can you please share that with me too at some point?
Absolutely.
Yeah, if you share with our office, we have it as an example.
Be glad to. And on the next one is the continuation. Okay. Protecting prospective neighbors, someone already talked about, would there be insurance for potential damage, because we all experience it. We go on to the next one. Now, when you talk about water, can you find the storm drain? This is after an hour of rain, so this is going to be coming down to your property because it flows, it can't flow down the storm drain, it flows off the hill. You don't see the storm drain. This is why we actually live here. You can go by these pretty quick. And you can, yeah, we don't want those because, and this is the assignee that bothers everybody, is that, are you going to promise us something and leave? And we have action items here. The hydrological testing is something that I'm hoping somebody will step in to do before they put a shovel in the ground. A traffic study that will include Memorial School. The archaeological investigation, because we know we have pictures from years gone by of stone artifacts. And we would really appreciate it if someone could look at the proof of notification of the receipts and protection of the neighbor's properties.
Something, I don't know how conservation does it. Usually we have these little green tags. I don't know if that we check when it's a certified letter. I don't know if they save theirs for multiple years. I know we collect them at every hearing. Maybe that's one of the unique jobs. But that would be something that I would question conservation. Ironically, as you know, this process bypasses conservation. However, they have given us a very detailed list of what would be concerns if this project had gone through their normal process. And we respect their expertise on this. I respect that board greatly. And we will look at every one of those concerns. Today is just an introduction. I'm listening to them, I'm listening to the neighbors. I feel I've given everyone a shot to express their concerns. I've got a whole list of them here, and I think that's our first steps.
Just as a clarification, when you have the consulting company, Stantec, come in, will the neighborhood be part of that in any point? Speaking with them about what our concerns are, or showing them our properties?
They get to see everything. The hard part is from what I'm hearing, many of the water concerns are presented by neighbors that are uphill. And this is not gonna help anyone who's uphill. But Stantec will see my list of concerns. I've asked you to share your list of concerns. Primarily it's an engineering and traffic thing. So we are going to do 6 months of public hearings on this. And Stantec will be here, because I know we've specifically asked On the last 40B, it was pandemic times, and there was a lot of basically just on the computer. I know we've asked them to be in person.
So do we find out about the meetings just by going on your agenda, or will we be notified? Or
The notification is for the first one.
This one?
Yes, and this will be an ongoing 6 months. I think it's 6 months. It will be basically every meeting for 6 months. There'll be a couple times where the engineers are working out a few details and trying to and they're doing fact finding, so it will get continued on. But if you can't come in person, I would encourage you to come in person. You can always zoom in and see what's new for that particular meeting. Mike, am I missing anything?
No, not at all. I would just offer, obviously, you have my number. You can always call me and ask if it's going to be on the agenda. I mean, it'll be a pretty consistent agenda item. What Bill was, the chairman was just saying is that there might be times where the engineering consultant hasn't completed a review and wouldn't be ready to present on any new information at the next meeting. And usually when that happens, there would be a request for a continuance, and there likely wouldn't be any really discussion at that meeting, although it would still be an agenda item. The way that it works, what the chairman was saying, is that you get notice for this meeting as you received, and then on every agenda that it'll be put on every agenda that it is planned to be on. And what I will try to do with Amy's help is, if we get a request to continue beyond a meeting, we will attempt to put that on the agenda so that you can see that ahead of time. And obviously, like I was just saying, you can call my office, before the day of the meeting to see if it's still on.
Yeah. If they're going to ask for a continuance, we will try to get that out. Yes, sir. Who are you and where do you live?
Joe Layton, I'm the town manager here in Upton. Also want to let everyone know that if you go to the town's website, right on the front, there's e-alerts. You can sign up so you can receive each and every copy of the ZBA's agenda right to your own mailbox, email box, so you can not only keep track of agendas for the ZBA, but also for any other boards in town. So I encourage you to sign up to receive notice of those agendas.
So did that change with the new website? Because I was on e-alerts and I don't get them anymore.
That's good to hear that feedback. We'll see exactly what happened. But then sign up again for that with the new website.
Thank you, sir. Are you going to stick around to the very end of the meeting? Because I had a question on a different topic for you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, when we're talking about meetings, we may want to schedule ahead of time the topics that we're going to be speaking about, so that our engineer and their engineer can be prepared for traffic one night, stormwater another night. So we may want to start thinking about what subjects we want to review first.
Okay. I think they're going to need some time. I think the water is a very complicated one.
We should put that one off, I think.
Yeah, put that off to give them time to research that. Probably the traffic.
Usually traffic, yeah.
Yeah.
Is usually the one that we can do the fastest and the quickest. So maybe if it's okay with the applicant, we schedule traffic first and go from there.
Can I, since you have a tremendous amount more experience on this and how on the flow, I've only done like 4 of these. Can you work that out with Michael?
Yeah. But I'll work with Ed.
We agree with that.
Okay.
Because that way you don't have to drag everybody out every single meeting.
Mike, do you know if under the scope whether lights is going to be reviewed by
Lighting?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't do the traffic study until they're done fixing the water main, because the police are out there and they have this half locked off.
Don't have a concern with delaying it, but I do. That 180-day thing is a legal thing, and it has to be done. This whole process is going to be completed at 180 days. Do you know when the water pipe project is going to be
I
completed?
believe Dennis said they're only working till November, and then they're going to pause for the winter. So, but we can check with Dennis to find out.
Yeah, I have a question for Dennis too. That's the same one.
But I would definitely, his point is true. The road is blocked.
It's an important matter. I've got it written down here. It's my 4th one down.
Water's number one.
Water's number one. I'm honest about it, you know, water's number one. Sir?
We have concluded that, based upon all the discussion, I think we were aware of it to begin with, that drainage is probably the critical path issue. And I agree with the chair that it may not be ready for the next meeting. However, the traffic report has been done. It's done by a firm, Vanessa, who's one of the leaders, traffic engineers in the state. It would be great if Stan Tech could have that reviewed in time prior to the next hearing, and time enough so that we might have a chance to take a look at it beforehand. I think that would make sense for as a topic for the next meeting.
So Mr. Chairman, we could work and check with SciTech to see if they can get something ready. If not, we can discuss whether we continue to a later date to get more time or put in another subject. I'm not quite sure if there's another subject that we don't necessarily need peer review. I think we get a good overall presentation tonight. I don't know if there's something else you want to discuss without peer review. But I think traffic is usually the quickest.
Yeah, but I understand his
Can I mention
concerns.
something?
Yeah.
That traffic study that was done does not mention the intersection of Fisk Ave and 140 at all. It mentions School Street, it mentions Mendon Road, but it omitted Fisk Ave from the study, so you can't use that
For the
study.
record, please. State your name and address for the
Dick
record.
Kennedy, 22 Hazelton Road.
And that is a four-way intersection.
Yeah.
We did see that comment about Fisk Ave. I spoke with Jeff Dirk, who's the CEO at Vanessa, and he'll be prepared to address that at the meeting.
Okay, that's good. That's good to hear. I'm going to lean a little bit on our technical advisors. Stan Tech is going to know more about that subject than I do, and I think I need to learn a little bit. So we'll try to get that, talk about that in a future meeting, whether it be the very next one or the one after that. But give us some time to get. That's why we're hiring a professional help. All right, I need to go back to you guys. You guys have been very quiet tonight. Do you have any questions or concerns before we close up this hearing, this part of this hearing for tonight?
It's a lot to take in.
That's a lot to take in.
digest.
Right, and that's why we have 6 months to digest it.
Do we have a specific 180-degree date? Is it next March? Is it next April? Is it next February? Are we behind the eight ball?
No, he's already given us an extension to
No, so
open the
the
public hearing.
180 days starts today.
Oh, it starts today, not as of that when the extension was written needed.
So that gets
So
us
we have
to
100.
March.
Right.
Okay, well, we're depending on you. So you know.
I concur. You know, we have a responsibility on this board, and they pay us in bars of gold.
180 days is 6 months, is it
It is.
not? That's April, not March.
Yeah.
Because quick, I just want to say,
We'll count it
the staff comments that we've already gotten from the various departments and the work that the town staff has done, we're well on track in the fact that we already have a peer review ready to go. That credit to the staff for getting everything ready. So we're on track, and we'll just start getting the information and get the peer reviewers working. That's really what we need.
Okay. Yeah, and we are going to hit that deadline. We have to by law, so we're going to hit it.
Yeah, through the chair, I was just going to say the comments from the board. That it was a lot to take in. Yeah, I was taking as many notes as I could as the concerns were raised by residents today. So I can, obviously we'll have the minutes. That'll be for your review at the next meeting. But we'll keep a running tally of the concerns as well, and so we can work through each individual issue. And like Attorney Alphen was saying, meetings specific to topic, I think is a helpful way to keep on track as well.
Yeah. And we'll try to track, at least I try to have what the remediations are.
The one thing I was going to say was, have we reached out to all the town departments?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
I'm still waiting for comments from Fire. Is still working on their comments. That was the last.
I didn't see one from the police chief.
They just sent one today.
Oh,
So that was just emailed out today.
Is that on the website?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I just didn't see it.
Yeah, all the comments and everything will be posted on the website. Would the board like me to post all written comments from the public on the website as well? I mean, if it's submitted for public.
I'm for openness.
Okay.
You know, even if I don't like the comment, I don't know. I think people have come here to express it.
That would be my suggestion.
And I would say put it up there. You guys okay with that?
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, everyone should be heard.
In my experience, folks tend to like to see their comments reflected publicly, so to know that it's out there. So.
Yeah.
I can work on that tomorrow.
Yeah, this is a big meeting. It's going to take a while to put on. It won't go up fast, but I'll get it done. Okay.
Excuse me, guys, one question?
Yes, sir.
Process, sorry. Pat David, chauffeur, 6 Pine. I'm really not involved with this.
Okay. Yeah.
Impacting where I live. I can tell you that where I live, I have a single house. I had a neighbor put in a pool.
Yep.
It impacted me significantly. So my question is there any additional responsibilities when it seems there's a large number of people where we have existing water problems already? Does that change the requirements in terms of testing or remediation, or even, God forbid, we have a 100-year storm, and we've just created a monster.
Yeah.
So how does that communication happen?
To speak to that
I'm sorry,
specific
can
concern.
you just state your name and address one more time?
Pat David, chauffeur, 6 Pine Street.
Thank you. One of the things we get from Stantec, and again, it's my number one concern, is he actually is I know from past projects that he will actually track how much water is coming off that property, including the 100-year storm.
Does it go to the neighbors, though? I guess my question is saying, it's like everything we're talking about is the land.
Yeah.
But we already, it sounds like through other construction, things have happened.
It's not going to help the uphill neighbors. I'll be brutally honest, it's not going to help the uphill neighbors.
Okay, that's interesting.
But it is going to hopefully help downstream neighbors and downhill neighbors. There's quite a bit of elevation change on that property, and Stantec knows that we're going to have to get charts of how much water is currently coming onto that property and how much is flowing off. They're not allowed to increase that. As I said before, in that previous project on James Road, it was looking at increasing the water off that project.
Well, I see this as more of a groundwater problem, actually.
Yeah.
So, just a question. I just want to make sure, because it sounds like communication is going to be very, very important going forward.
Yeah.
Sounds like not a lot of it has happened, like effective communication. So I would just hope that, the communication happens and, there's good conversation, people understand the decisions. That's it.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Last chance before I close this part of the meeting. We actually have some housekeeping stuff to do on our part. Mike?
And before you move on from this agenda item, the board, and it's on your agenda, you need a vote to continue this public hearing.
I've already queued up Mr. Humes. It's right in front of him.
To November 15th, which is the next meeting, I believe. Amy, did I put that in correctly?
Yes. Mr. Humes.
November, so a date, time certain, date certain, time certain, place certain. So November 15th, 6:30.
6:30 here.
In this location, but probably the best bet.
Yeah, he's queued up.
Unfortunately, this worked out. So, and thanks to everybody who joined online, because otherwise, we might have been in trouble. So,
thank you, Mr. Humes.
I make a motion that we continue the public hearing November 15th at 6:30 p.m. for the comprehensive permit application for 47 Main Street.
I'll second the location of the meeting's here. Oh.
At the community center.
Why don't you admit? I'll second. I'll it's not unanimous, man. I'm so used to being a three-person board. We're going to amend that the meeting will be here. Bill Andrews, aye. Don Spargo, aye. Eric?
Eric Russell, aye.
There we go. Thank you, Eric. And thank you for keeping us all safe by staying home with your COVID germs.
No problem.
All right. We have some more.
Just quickly, you said for people to email, but there's a problem right now if you use contacts on your website. Try and email any department or any member of any board. And I'm working with Denise on that.
Thank you. I love that we have a small town and everyone knows that. Thank you, sir. We just got a couple quick ones. We need a vice chair.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. I just want to
Can you send me what that is tonight?
Yes, I will.
I'm fast, but I'm not. Thank you.
Any volunteers?
Eric said he'd do it.
Oh,
I mean, he's not here. You give him the job.
He's here.
Why don't you nominate Eric? Second. Unless Don or Bob, either of you.
I make a motion to nominate Eric as vice chair.
Second.
Okay. Can't say chair. I don't say. We'll have to ask for a procedure. Bill Andrews, aye.
Bob Butler, aye.
Bob Hughes, aye.
Spargo, aye.
Eric?
Congratulations.
Eric Russell, aye.
Congratulations. You get a job with no pay and no responsibility, but should I be killed in this process? You get to take over.
There you go.
All right, we have some housekeeping stuff here to take care of on the agenda. You took, I give you my
So, do we have to vote on any minutes?
We got we got, Amy, you gave, the minutes you sent out was for September 20th?
Yes.
Did I check? I read them, man. You write like the most incredible detailed minutes.
Thank you.
Oh my God.
Tonight, not so much, so.
Not so much.
I will be referencing exhibits.
Can I get a motion to accept the minutes for September 20th?
Can I make a motion, we accept the minutes for September 20th as read.
Second.
Okay. We're gonna have to ask him. He's a genius on stuff. Okay. Bill Andrews says aye.
Don Spargo, aye.
Bob Hughes, aye.
Bob Butler, aye.
Oh, we should have asked Michael Galibra. He was at that meeting.
Yeah, I'm not, take my eye back.
Technically,
Yeah.
it would be Michael Galibra.
Correct.
Okay. Eric, can you approve?
Eric Russell, aye.
Okay, that gives us the 4 members. Thank you. I want to acknowledge the receipt of a variance application on June 28th from St. Gabriel's of the Archangel Church. The applicant requests to subdivide the property to provide a residential lot on the large lot frontage reduction special permit. They are requesting a reduction from 70 feet to 50 feet. The ZBA cannot currently take action on the letter until permission is accompanying the applicant from the actual owner of record, which is the Worcester. So this is just noting that.
And Bill, they requested to withdraw that.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Okay. So
as a result of that.
I need a motion to accept the withdrawal.
I make a motion.
Without prejudice.
Yes.
I make a motion, we accept the withdrawal for the application of the variance of June 28th from St. Gabriel's, the Archangel Church.
I'll second the motion.
You say yes. We'll let you do it. Bill Andrews, aye.
Bob Hughes, aye.
Don Spargo, aye. Oh, no, I can't vote on
You
it.
can't vote it. Eric?
Eric Russell, aye.
Okay. And I'll take a vote of adjournment. Actually, since Michael's no longer on procedurally, can he?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so.
If you're short, yeah.
If we're short a member,
Yeah.
so you get to make this motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second motion.
Bill Andrews, aye.
Bob Butler, aye. Bob Hughes, aye.
Don Spargo, aye.
Eric Russell, aye.
Okay, we are adjourned.